All right, all right, all right. We're finally live after the spinning wheel of death on the live. And I'm probably going to mention this for the next who knows how many lives that I do because it's always just this awkward moment where you're waiting to get on stage. But we have to live within the awkwardness as we're speaking. Hopefully, it's not always awkward when you're speaking, but maybe it is. You live with it, you move on. But we are excited tonight for the Speaking Sessions Virtual Summit number 4 here. This is an exciting time, and we are on the topic of leadership. Once again, we've got some amazing speakers coming up here tonight. So, y'all need to be tuned in for this. And just a few little housekeeping things. If you are interested in public speaking, that is something that I can help out with. Speech prep is what I specifically do. So if you need help with that, reach out to me at any point to get that help. As well as if you want to be on any of these stages, just go over to speakingsessions.com/virtual-summit, where you can get your application in and we will get you on a future stage. But with that, we're going to go ahead and get to our first speaker. This is a guy that I have known for some time now. We actually were on the cheer team together. This is not part of his bio, but we were on the cheer team together. So we go back a little ways. He was the one that did the flips. I threw the girls in there. He helped out with that too. So he actually did both. I'd say he was more of a man than me. But anyways, Will, glad to have you here. But Will Patrick, along with his wife and daughter, live in Nacogdoches, Texas, where he is the head cheer coach at Stephen F. Austin State University. He also works as the kids director at Timber Creek Church and owns the company Precision Camps and Choreography. While most of his time is spent working with young youth and young adults, he also loves being able to provide leadership development to those who are looking to take their leadership to the next level. So, Will, go ahead and take it away.
What's up, man? First of all, Phil, man, thanks for having me on. It's been awesome. Like Phil said, we've known each other for some time now, so this is really cool to be connected back in this way. With Phil being able to have a platform like this to help elevate people who are taking leadership to the next level, something I love to do. So we're gonna jump right into it because I know we got some other leaders that are gonna jump on the stage, and we want to be able to honor their time as well. So today, specifically for leadership, I'm going to be talking about when we delegate, we elevate. And the big picture I want to paint is, what is our biggest goal as leaders? When we look at when you're in a place of leadership, there's so many responsibilities that fall on us, and we have all these goals and these visions that we cast. But what are the biggest goals of leaders in that? And I genuinely believe that when we are in a place of leadership, our goal should be to obviously, one, help create success at the highest level for everybody involved in our leadership platform, whoever we're leading. But also, two, we should be able to create more leaders. And that's what I want to focus on today. I want to paint this picture of when we delegate, we elevate. And I want to start off by talking about if you've ever heard of the two great leaders, book writers, speakers, phenomenal, Craig Rochelle and Jim Collins. They have this conversation about leadership, and Jim Collins actually has a series called Level 5 Leadership, and it takes you through a series of levels of leadership, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And as Craig and Jim have this conversation, the question comes up: is there a level past level 5 leadership? And Jim actually says, once you become a level 5 leader, you do all these things to become a level 5 leader. If you could take it any farther, being, a level quote unquote 6 leader, it would be to create something that you could pass down to somebody and train that person to hold it at the same level you kept it at, and then elevate it to the next level. So even in Jim writing, a book, in creating a system of level 5 leadership, he says, if I could go past this, it would be to be able to create something that I could pass down to somebody else, but also have that person trained up to take it to the next level. So when we can create other leaders, it's the most phenomenal thing we can do as leaders, right? So let's talk about, when we delegate, what does get elevated? We say, when we delegate, you elevate, but what gets elevated? So your timeline is the first thing we're going to talk about getting elevated. And when we talk about timeline, how many times as leaders do we say, I wish I had more time in the day, or there's just not enough time to get this done, or whatever they may be. When we can create a space to delegate successfully to those around us, to entrust others with tasks that we know will get done in a strong manner, then we really take back control of our timeline, because then we can be efficient with what we're doing. So we're being able to take, the time that we have and really be, really beat the timeline, because now I'm not having to break up my time into, putting this much percent here and this much here and this much here. But now we're, dividing and conquering. But in order to do that, I have to have people that I trust in those areas that can actually take whatever the task, the situation may be, and really execute, our goal of what we're trying to accomplish at the end of the day. Second, their confidence. So, anybody who works under me, anybody who works under you as a leader, you really want them to be confident, because the more confident we are in anything we do, we know the more success we're going to bring. And we're not talking about false confidence. We're not talking about, just putting on a facade to, make myself look better. We're talking about genuine confidence, the sense of, I feel strong in this area. I feel knowledgeable. I feel intelligent. I feel like if you give me, whatever this is, I can take it, I can run with it, and you're going to see positive results at the end of the day. So we can conquer the timeline by dividing and conquering, but we can also build confidence in those under us who we're leading. And I don't think there's a better, like I said, the whole thing we're pointing back to is the feeling of being able to create more leaders. So to be able to genuinely instill confidence in somebody, that's what's going to get elevated as well. And then overall, the success of the entire team. And that's what, like I said, as a leader, your biggest job is to make sure whatever you are leading is successful at the end of the day. You want to be able to take whatever you have been entrusted with, whatever your responsibility is as a leader, and make it successful. So when we delegate, and if we do this correctly, when we delegate, we will elevate our time, because now we can divide and conquer, get more things done in an efficient manner. We're not just getting quantity, but we're getting quality as well. We can boost confidence within those who are following us and those who are leading or we're training and we're building up. And then our success is going to skyrocket, because now we are able to do so many more things at such a strong level. So as we're talking about, delegation, we want to look at a leader versus a boss and what the difference is in between the two. So, when we talk about bosses and leaders, sometimes it's just a title, but sometimes it's actually a personality trait. And when you're in that boss mentality, it's very much, like, run as fast as I can, and hopefully they can keep up with me, and, pointing the finger, and, very temperamental, and, really self-centered and focused on, I'm leading more so because I don't want to be a failure, versus I'm leading because I see others be successful, right? And when we're talking about leadership, we're talking about, elevating. We're talking about not being afraid to, lead from the back and push somebody forward. We're talking about, welcoming. We're talking about being able to not just, we're not coddling people, but we're going to be able to sympathize with them to help them realize what their situation is, and then help them work through it, not just let them sit in their mess. So if there's a phrase I can leave you with, if nothing else, as we navigate through this speech, is leaders create other leaders, but bosses create other followers, right? So as leaders, we should be creating more leaders as we are investing in others, but bosses will create more followers. And, we don't want to see people just be stuck in the following sense. We want to see people be elevated to become leaders. So as a leader, you should be creating more leaders. And if you want to be a boss, that's fine, but you're going to end up creating more followers at the end of the day. And we really want to make sure that we are being able to differentiate between, what kind of leadership standpoint that we're standing in ourselves, and, what kind of leadership style we're bringing to the table. So I want everyone to be encouraged as we're talking about this, because here's the thing. As you're trying to create other leaders, and as you're trying to teach people and train people and build them up, anyone can be a leader. What we're doing right now is leadership development, right? So anyone can be a leader, but here's the reality. Not everyone will be a leader. Not everyone will. Anyone can be a leader. You can train, you can learn, you can read every single leadership book, but not everyone will, because leadership is not just about knowing, it's about doing. Right. So it's about understanding that there is a responsibility with leadership. There is a weight that comes to leadership. There is a vision that you have to be able to cast when it comes to leadership. You take on the burdens of all of those that are following you. Like, leadership is not for the faint of heart, but the reality is there's a lot of pressure to it. Right. But at the end of the day, pressure is a privilege. Like, pressure is a privilege. And when you get to sit in the space of that privilege to handle that pressure, it means more as a leader. Like there's a lot of hard times, right? There's a lot of, weights and things that you're gonna have to deal with, the things behind closed doors that people don't see, the decisions you have to make, the, keeping the tempo of the entire team, all these different things that are gonna happen. But it's a privilege to sit in that space because it means that you have been developed or you have been built or you were created for this moment to be able to handle those things. And that's what we're trying to train others to be able to do. We want to be able to build others to be able to handle that pressure when the time comes. So anyone can be a leader, but not everyone will, and that's fine. And we have to be able to know how can we separate those who are willing to be a leader. And that's what we're going to talk about right here in this next step. So how do we delegate so we can create more leaders? Like how do we develop more leaders? How do we do all these things that we're talking about so we can create more leaders? First thing we have to do as leaders to be able to create more leaders is we have to desire success over credit. End of story. Like success has to be the top tier priority, and credit cannot compete with it at that level. When we are more focused on credit, if we are driven by the success of like, I want the credit, we're going to be fearful of the failure. I don't want people to think I'm a failure. So then we are going to throw people under the bus. We're going to make sure that, whenever the time comes, people see my name. Like you're going to do all these things that put yourself at the center of attention, and you're going to push out all the people that helped you get there. Now, when we desire success over credit, we don't care who gets the credit at the end of the day. We don't care who gets the credit at the end of the day. Not many people can tell me who caught the winning touchdown of the Super Bowl this year. They can tell me who threw it, but they can't tell me who caught it because it wasn't a top tier player. But guess what? The Kansas City Chiefs are the Super Bowl champions, and everybody knows that. But not many people can say who caught the winning touchdown. But guess what? If Patrick Mahomes would have desired credit over success, he would have held onto that ball and tried to run it in himself, and they may not be champions right now. But the fact that it was success over credit, he's like, who's open? They're getting the ball. I don't care what their numbers. I don't care what names on the back of their jersey. They're on my team. That's all that matters. We're scoring so we can win. And when we have that kind of mentality, we are going to score more. We're going to be way more successful. Moving on from our desire, we have to understand the balance of direction and development. So there are a lot of people in life who want to just be directed. Just tell me what to do so I can get it done. But there's a lot of people who want to be developed. Like, don't tell me just what to do. Tell me how to do it. And there has to be a balance. We have to be able to tell people what to do and where to go with it, but also how to do it. And if we have too much of one and not the other, then things kind of get shifted. So if we have too much direction and not enough development, then there's going to be a lack of, innovation and independence. People really won't be able to do things by themselves. But on the flip side, if there's too much development and no direction, then there's going to be a lack of, implementation and initiative because they won't know where to go with it or what to do with it at the end of the day. So as we navigate through how do I create leaders, you got to desire success over credit. You got to make sure that you are balancing development and direction, how to do something, teaching people how to do things, but also giving them direction on what to do and where to go with it. And then that's going to help elevate, your execution. You're going to see people be more humble. You're going to see them be more disciplined. They're going to trust you. They're going to follow you out of trust instead of fear. And these are the things that you want to be able to really see from the people you're leading, because at the end of the day, that reflection should be a reflection of who you see yourself as a leader. One of my favorite all-time movies, Remember the Titans. My favorite quote, when Julius Campbell looks Gary Bertier in the face and says, "Attitude reflects leadership, Captain." And as leaders, we should be thinking the same thing every day we walk into whatever organization is. My leadership is going to cast a mirrored effect in how they act day to day and how they're following day to day and how they're making choices day to day is going to be a reflection of my leadership being casted onto them. So, big things, to take away from this is if you want to see your team succeed, you have to be around your team. You can't implement development direction if you're not around your team. You can't really desire success if you're not around your team. So as you're helping build strengths and as you're helping acknowledge weaknesses and, maintaining strength while we're getting stronger with weaknesses and developing more leaders in those areas, remember, to be able to do that, first and foremost, you got to be around your team. Be around your team. I'm going to leave you with a quote that's going to help you remember to be around your team. Very, very simple. The shepherd should smell like the sheep. If the shepherd does not smell like the sheep, he is not close enough to his flock. So in order to do all these things to help develop more leaders, you got to be around your team. You got to be in there. You got to know your team. You got to know what they're going through. You got to be able to talk to them, communicate with them. Not just communicate. Are they comprehending what I'm saying? you got to understand what they need, and you got to be able to figure out how do I provide them with those resources and those tools. Because when you create more leaders, you're going to become more effective, you're going to become more efficient, and you're going to be able to execute way more in your team and your organization. So remember, to be able to do all these things, you got to be around your team. You as a shepherd need to smell like your sheep. Thank y'all so much for letting me have this time. Super awesome being able to be on here and speak with this, and hopefully 1, 2, 3 things maybe hit home for how do I create more leaders in my organization.
Yeah, well, that was a great message there for sure. And I had Benny Fisher on my podcast quite a while back, but he mentioned something about true leaders not only teach somebody else to be a leader, but that person they taught then goes on to teach them. And that's what his definition was of true leadership. But I loved your quote about, you need to smell like the team needs to smell like you, like the sheep and everything. That's such a great thing as well, because if they don't resemble somewhat of you, that means you're not teaching them. They're learning from somewhere else. So very great message there. Appreciate that, Will. All right, on to our next speaker here. We've got another great leadership talk ahead of us. Cesar Espino was born in Mexico City during a time where the country had one of the largest foreign debts and was going through a difficult or financial crisis. Not only was he born in a poor family, he was also born to just one parent, his mom, and never has met his biological father. Today, Cesar's passion is to empower, educate, inspire, and aspire many through his experience and life lessons. Cesar has an MBA, has held positions in corporate America. He lives in Los Angeles, California, is a best-selling international author, real estate investor, mind coach, podcaster of the show You Can Overcome Anything podcast show, and REI coach. His objective is to empower, motivate, and inspire others to reach their full potential. Cesar is creating opportunities for people to have a chance at life, regardless of people's backgrounds and or their current situations. Cesar, take it away.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you for having me here. How are you guys? And I'm super excited to be here because I think this is a topic that we all need to learn about. And I'm going to be talking about leading by example. And in the topic of leadership, I think it's so critical for us to understand the difference between being a leader and being a boss, and also being a leader that is actually leading by example. I'm sure that many of you guys here have either kids or you have parents, right? And so when you think about that, when you think about being and having a kid or kids, you as a parent are doing whatever you can to teach your kids how to have better values, principles, how to behave, or the things that they have to do, and really helping them in creating a better journey through their life. On the flip side, if you have parents, you're looking up to your parents to make sure that your parents are essentially, giving you guidance, and they're helping you, and they're providing information that maybe you're not so clear, or helping you make better decisions in your life. When you think of those two things, a leading by example, a leader is exactly that. Someone that's leading by example is going to look at how can I first position myself in a place where the people that are looking up to me are going to follow, and they're going to remember that at the end of the day, I was a great leader. There's a Dee Hock, the founder of Visa. He said, if you want to lead, invest 40% of your time leading yourself, right? And this is a huge differentiator. I have a lot of experience working in corporate America and managing people anywhere from 10 people all the way to 50 people at one point. And now more so in my recently what I'm doing right now as an entrepreneur, leading in the different teams that I had, whether it's in coaching or in real estate, as little as 4 people. And one thing that I came to realize is that while I have been in many leadership roles, I realized that the biggest thing that I have to do and need to do is how did I start leading by example, and how did I start working through myself. So I want to give you a couple of different things that you, in my opinion, have to start taking into consideration to help you in becoming a better leader. one of the first things that you need to really do is work on yourself. If you want to be a leader and you want to start leading a team, or you're already doing that right now, and you're asking yourself, how can I best help my team grow? How can I best lead the team that that's looking up to me? um, yes, it's important to look at the metrics, and it's important to look at, where I want to take the company or this project. All of those different things are good, except a lot of times what we do is, instead of leading by example, we're leading with the idea of, I'm the boss and you do whatever I tell you because I'm the boss, I have the authority. You're losing credibility by doing that. Even though they might do the work, you're losing their credibility, their trust. It's like that like and non trust factor from the people that are working underneath you or with you. And so the first thing you want to be able to do is work on yourself. What do I mean by that? There's a lot of different things you got to do when you work on yourself. One of those is, you want to be able to reflect on a day-to-day basis. Take 10 minutes on a daily basis, and you want to be able to go back and reflect on the challenges that you had faced today. Those challenges, what were those challenges? And for the purpose of this, one of the things that I've done in working on myself, I really choose my words wisely, because words do matter. And when you're talking to people, when you're talking to clients, when you're talking to anybody, you want to be able to be very careful on the words that you choose, and how you communicate to your people, to your customers, or the people that are working with you, or the people that you're leading, because one word can make a big difference. See, I don't see anything as problems. I don't have any problems, because problems, when you think of problems, the human mind starts thinking about, I don't want to deal with that. That is a negative thing, a negative connotation. When you start thinking about a challenge, you think of a challenge as something that you want to win. You want to be able to come out ahead. And so you want to reflect on your challenges. What were the challenges that you faced today? At the same time, you want to be able to reflect on every single thing that you won. What were some of the wins that you had today? Maybe you won a new contract, or maybe you had a new deal, or maybe you had a new client, or maybe the people that are looking up to you were so grateful for the advice that you gave them. You want to be able to reflect on that. And as you reflect on your challenges and your wins, you're going to then utilize that, so that the next day you can be a 1 or 2% better, right? So reflection is huge when you're looking at, how did I become a better leader? The other thing you have to do is, you have to work on your way of thinking, that thing between your two ears. You got to think about, start working through your mindset. And I really believe that this is huge, because oftentimes, if you're not in a right mindset, you can lose your cool. Maybe something didn't go well. One of the projects didn't flourish the way you wanted to work. Maybe the person that is looking up to you didn't do what they needed to do. And if you don't have a straight mind, then those people, you're gonna go off on those people, and then they're not gonna be able to perform. So you want to be able to work on your mind, and there's many different things that you can do. One of them is like being part of this broadcast right now, and being able to listen to the different speakers, and really being a student of learning, right? And taking those golden nuggets that you can utilize. So work on your mind, work on reflecting on a day-to-day basis. Also, when we're looking at leading other people, we want to be able to understand their needs. We want to be able to understand their challenges. We want to be able to understand, what are their goals? What do they want to achieve by being here with you and working with you? You have to be interested on them more than interesting on you. I'm gonna say that again. You want to be interested on them, be interested on their needs, on what they're trying to achieve, on their families, on whatever that might be, as opposed to being an interesting person where you're only dealing and talking about yourself. When a true leader is interested in other people, and they're actually looking at, how can I best serve you? Because while they're there to work with you, you're there to serve them. You want them to be on your side by being interested in their needs. And a lot of people, when you start seeing that, they're going to say, wow, my leader is definitely looking at, how can I be a better person? How can I grow? How can I do this? How can I do that? That means that I want to be able to perform better, and I want to be able to do more for this person. When you start doing that, what's going to happen is that the people that you're leading, at whatever capacity, they're going to give you 10 times more than the average person will give you. So you definitely want to be able to do that. The second thing where I seen it, and this happened early on in my career many years ago when I was in corporate America, and I wanted to, and I was thrown into leading people, is that I had the lack of communication. I wasn't communicating enough. And there's obviously also the idea of having way too many meetings that are useless. Obviously, you don't want to have any of that, right? You want to be able to over communicate, though, and you want to have specific meetings or specific conversations with your people and get to the point. Obviously, also allowing them to share their ideas, allowing them to share their opinions, or even one of the things that I like to do when I go into meetings with people is, we have a challenge. Here's the challenge. Can you give me a solution? What do you think we should do? What I'm doing there is I'm actually empowering them to provide some feedback and having them feel like they're part of the team. Instead of me saying, hey, we have this challenge and we're going to do A, B, C, and D. Any questions, right? That is definitely a wrong way to go about it. The next thing you want to be able to do when you're having that communication is you want to be able to set clear and specific expectations. Oftentimes, as a leader, we do not do that. We just say, hey, I want to get this done, or I want to gain that customer, or I want to do X, Y, and Z, except you're not giving the people that are working for you or with you the specific things that they have to do, or precisely what you want them to do for you. So you want to make sure that you do that. And as you're going through all of this, you want to think about this. The minute that you help that person grow, because that's really the idea. I believe that a leader should help other people grow. As you help that person grow and they go and part ways and they go someplace else, you want them to remember you. When somebody can remember you of the things and the teachings and what you did for them, that means that you were a great leader. When somebody can actually, if they're talking about you in a conversation with a client or in a lunch or meeting or dinner meeting, you want somebody to say, you know what? Yeah, that person helped me out a lot. They were a great leader. Instead of somebody bringing you up in that meeting, and then you're like, oh, I don't want to talk about that guy or that girl, because again, you don't want to leave them with that idea. Here's another thing that I always like to do when we talk about leadership, and I think that this is part of that, and is what Jim Rohn talked about, and is the average five, right? That you become the average five of the people that you hang around with. I believe that as a leader, it's great to be part of that average five. And let's take it a step further, though. What does that mean? We all have to learn from somebody, right? We even right now, if I'm at the highest level of my organization, I probably have coaches, or I have a group of people that are consulting with me and telling me how to go about my business. Mentorship, right? You have somebody that is actually helping you get to that next level. The second one is, now I'm at this level where I'm listening to my coaches, and now I got to be able to coach the people below me, right? I got to be a great leader by working through my mindset. And then the last one is the opportunity to be at service and be able to reach down and help those people below you come up to your level sooner or later by you teaching them and becoming that great leader that you are. And so I will leave you with this. At the end of the day, if you're looking to really be in the space of leading by example, and you want to be able to not only get really good results, you want to be able to take your business, take your life, or whatever it is that you have going on, to that next level, you really got to consider the idea of working in yourself 40% and really working on understanding on how to be more aware, and understanding and working on your mind, and more than anything, understanding the people that are working with you. When you can get all of those different elements in place, I can guarantee you that you can be a great leader, leading the people to the next level. And so that is the best advice that I can give you in terms of leading by example and working through all of those things as you continue to go in your journey and in your business and in your life.
Awesome, Caesar. Man, some great points you mentioned there. Really having that supportive environment for growth is something that I believe a lot of leaders are missing. And the other one that you recap for us there, that we have to be focused on our own growth journey. Too oftentimes as leaders, we get stuck in the day to day, or we focus on our team and maybe the things that they're not doing well enough. And we want to give them the direction and we forget about ourselves. And if we're not continuing to grow, how can somebody follow our leadership? So great talk there. Appreciate you coming on and sharing your insights.
Thank you.
All right. Our next speaker, we're ready for them. We've got James Jacoby here. He is a sales trainer and business development consultant for small to mid-sized companies. He's the CEO of Ascend Advisors and owner of Action Morristown. And James, go ahead and take it away, man. I'm excited to hear what you're going to share with us today, but go ahead and take it away so the audience can learn some more about leadership.
Awesome. Philip, thank you so much for having me here. Everyone, it's my pleasure to be in front of you for the next few minutes. So I put together a couple of notes that I'd like to share, and I'd like to share this from not a book I read or a conference I went to, but I want to give you it straight just from my own personal experience. So I've been a leader of $500 million companies. I've been a leader in $9 billion boardrooms. I've been a leader for startups and everything in between. So it doesn't matter where you're at in your business. I'm going to give you some things that you can relate to in this talk. And I hope you take something away from it. So currently, I'm the CEO and founder of Ascend Advisors. I've advised hundreds of firms over the last 5 years, and I've led teams as large as 15 direct reports. And I've been responsible through my 20 years in B2B business for developing all sorts of markets across the country, from New York to Boston, international, and everything in between. So I know a lot about grittiness, the day-to-day of what it's like to build your brand and to build your dream and to lead and build a team. So a lot of things I'm going to say tonight are not new. They're probably things you are aware of and know, but I will tell you from all the clients that I've served and all the things that I've experienced internally in my businesses, it really does come back to these three things. And so these are the three things that we're going to talk about over the next few minutes. It's going to be people, cash flow, and process. People, cash flow, and process. If you get these three things right, the chances of you doing really well in your business and leading your business to success, I would say would be very, very high. So I want to start first with people. And first things first, it's in the Bible, but love your neighbor as yourself, right? It starts with you. And if you can't lead yourself, you got no business leading anyone else. And that really is maybe a euphoric term or a statement, but it really does matter. Like, you need to take care of yourself. You need to lead yourself to have a balanced daily life where your stress is managed as possible. You got a great mindset. You're positive. You got good energy. You're in a good mood. You're taking care of your health. You're taking care of your friends and your family and your loved ones and your personal relationships. And you're doing stuff that can unwind. It is so important to take care of yourself. I can't understate that, because as the days go along and the weeks go along and you build your business, and you know this, if you're in the trenches, it can get very taxing. And one of the most, there's three major reasons why firms fail. I know you hear all the time, firms fail in the first 5 years, 10 years, so on and so forth. But one of the major reasons why businesses fail is the founder burns out. The founder burns out. They lose their fire, they lose their edge, and they can't do it anymore. So take care of yourself, because the challenges of tomorrow will be there for tomorrow. Take care of yourself today. You can't survive on a half tank of gas. You got to have your cup full as much as possible. So with that, let's get to your team. You might be a solopreneur. You might want to hire one person to be a team of two. You might be running a bigger business with a team of 10, 50, 100 or more. It really doesn't matter. It really is always about what's in front of you and who's next, and you deal with what you have. But what is your vision for your people? You got to have a vision for them to buy into, and it can't be something that you do once a year in a boardroom talk. It's got to be something that lives in your office on the wall. It's got to be a part of your daily huddles with your team. It's got to be communicated in the marketplace. Your team should be the voice of the brand, and they should be so proud and so excited to work for you that they can tell their friends and family of what you do every day and why they're excited to be there. If they don't have that feeling, then there's got to be work done on the culture of your team. Your people 100% come first, not your clients, your people. You got to take care of your people in your doors, and they got to get to know you. They got to trust you. And the only way you can do that is you got to spend time with them. You got to spend time with them. You got to get to know them. You don't need to be best buddies, but you need to be able to build trust and understand that they understand you. They understand the mission of the business. They understand how to do the service or execute the product of the business. And they need to be able to be vulnerable enough so that you can coach them and teach them how to be better versions of themselves. If you hire anyone on your team, your number one mission should be to leave them better than when you found them. That should be your number one mission as a leader. And so think about for each person on your team that you have now, or the future people that you're going to bring on your team, your focus should be on how can I make this person better at what they do, and how can I channel that for the growth of the business, right? You're bringing them on to obviously help service the business, but how can you help them feel intrinsically rewarded and satisfied for the work that they're doing and see themselves growing and developing your business, but also drive value and drive growth for your product or your service? You got to put the two together. Until you're at least at 10 employees and have a strong named number 2 in command, lieutenant, you cannot leave the culture to chance. You cannot leave it to anybody else. It has to be you that drives it every single day in your office, even if you do telework. If all your workers are remote, my business is fully remote today. You can drive great culture through Zoom, through Slack, working from home, but it's got to be you that drives that every day. No one else is going to do that better than you. You got to have, I'm just looking at my notes. You can't just be strategy only and drop it at the door and then you leave it there. You got to be reminding people every day of what's important. And you also have to be available for them to answer questions or be available for what their concerns, because they need you as a leader. Last thing on people is do what you say and be careful of what you promise on the daily, weekly conversations that you have. It's easy to overpromise and underdeliver when you're talking to so many people. You need to be very aware, very, very aware, and very careful on what you promise to people and make sure you deliver on that promise, even if it's super, super small. The more you can do that, the more trust you will build with your people and also with your clients. Cash flow. This was a huge theme for the pandemic, and it still is today. But when it comes to running your business, you have got to think about cash flow. I know that's a very easy concept, but it's something that most businesses struggle with, and they're biting their nails every week, every month on how they're going to do payroll, how they're going to be able to afford all their expenses, because they're wondering when the next sale's coming in, or they're wondering when the receivables are going to hit. So it's not a light subject. It's a number one reason why businesses fail, besides people and you. So cash flow. When's the last time you've looked at your expenses in depth? If you haven't done it in a while, go ahead and print out the last 2 months of your bank statements and go line by line over a Saturday for a couple hours and look at where you're spending your money. If there's anything on there that seems irrelevant or not essential to your business, I would challenge you to just get rid of it for a while. I want you to create more cushion and more comfort in your business for your peace of mind, so you're not stressing out month to month on when the next check's coming in to afford budgeting out and paying your people. You can do more with less. And I learned this lesson the hard way as a business owner. I thought spending more would make more. And sometimes that's true, but most of the time it's not. And so you got to be careful where you put your money and really, really watch the expense line. And if you like Grant Cardone, I like Grant for some things for not, but he'll tell you focus 10% on expenses, 90% on sales. I'm a big sales guy. That's my background. I would tell you, yeah, we got to talk about sales. Where are we at in the market? Who's the next sale? Who's our next client? Of course, all that. But really, really, really figure out how can you run as lean as possible with your expenses and your people to deliver a great service and great product for your customers. That is essential. You have got to come out of every month profiting 10, 20% or more, or there's something missing. And maybe it's because you're not charging enough, which we'll get into sales. But that's the flip of it. On the sales side, you got to drive more revenue. I advise so many companies on sales and business development, and the number one thing that I see them not do is they don't take enough action on a daily and weekly basis in sales. They just don't. They're hoping that their clients that they have today will carry them. They're hoping that that deal that they have that's been on the works for a while is going to come through. And folks, I can tell you from being in successful, fast-growing companies, the ones that win are the ones that focus on sales every single day. It's got to be a part of your weekly, your daily huddle. It's got to be numbers that you report on. It's got to be activity that you measure with calls, emails, meetings, everything. You got to have some KPIs that you measure every single day with yourself and your team on how you're driving sales. You need to get to a point, if you haven't gotten here yet, where you're closing contracts, numerous contracts, every single week. And if you're not doing that, then there's an opportunity for improvement there, because that's going to help you have survivability and sustainability in the business. Sales will keep your business alive. If you don't have it, it won't be around that long. So, but that's the answer for cash flow. The last thing that I'll get into is process. You can't do it all. If you're the business owner, which most likely you are watching this, you cannot do it all in your business, even though you think you can. And you're probably really good at 20 different things that made your business good. If you want to grow this thing, you can't do it all. And my best advice to you is be real with yourself on your superpower. What is the best thing you're good at that has made this business great? It may be sales. It may be client engagements. You're good at servicing clients. It may be good at marketing. It might be you're actually good at financials and you're just good at the books. Whatever the answer is, own it. And then hire out everything else as soon as you can within your budget. And it doesn't need to be, C-suite people that you're bringing in that you can't afford. You think about, Moneyball, where you got a small budget, you're in a small market. You can bring in talent that's affordable that can do a lot of the tasks you don't think you can delegate. You can delegate a lot of things and you can take a lot of work off your plate. The key is you need to start thinking about leveraging other people to do the work for you that you don't need to be doing, because your superpower is the one thing that's going to make your business the best. And everything else, you got to start trusting other people that are smarter than you, more talented than you, that can be trained up as good as you to do those other things. But process in terms of how do you market your brand? How do you get leads? How do you make sales and sales presentations? How do you bill people? How do you onboard people? How do you service clients? Like, there is a whole continuum of how your business works. All that needs to be on a whiteboard, processed out step by step. And if your name is the person that does all those things, that is not good. You need to figure out how you can start putting other people's names in that process. And the better you can get at that and start delegating 80 to 90% of that whole process, the better chance you're going to have a business that lasts 10 years from now. So people, process, and cash flow, there's a lot to go into this. It's a lot of meat, but at a high level, those are the things that are going to help your business grow. And if you lead those well, you will lead your business to a long-term success.
Good stuff, man. And I know you could go into so much more detail on that.
So
And I
much.
agree. Yeah, but that's all right, man. Sometimes we just got to get a high level before we dive into those things. So appreciate you coming on and sharing that value with us.
Thanks, Philip.
All right, so we're going to go on to our next speaker, but one last comment on that people are our greatest asset in our business, whether it be just us or it be an actual team that we have. So make sure that you treat the people that you're around, that you're having work for you, whatever that looks like, with the utmost respect. And now we're going to go on to our next speaker. We've got Greg Birch in the house. He is a true warrior at heart, having served our country as an Army officer in both Iraq and Afghanistan. After completing his service, he used his natural leadership abilities to excel in the insurance industry, setting sales records and coaching others to achieve greatness. But it was his personal struggle with anxiety and depression that led him on a journey of self-discovery and the creation of the progressive discipline technique. Today, as the founder of Delta Fit, Greg is dedicated to helping individuals transform their physical, mental, and spiritual health to become their best selves. Without further ado, take it away, Greg.
Hey, so thank you so much, Philip, for having me on here. I'm happy to be speaking to everybody. I'm really excited to share a lot of the leadership tactics and techniques that I've learned over my period of time that I spent in the military, but also in business. And so what I want to do is I'm going to bring it down to like the base level. These are some of these tactics and techniques are things that I learned as a young officer, as a young second lieutenant, first lieutenant, even as a young captain. When I served in Fort Huachuca, Arizona, I was a captain and I was the commander of HHC U.S. Army Garrison. And during that time frame, one of the mentors that I looked up to that I got a lot of coaching sessions with was General Bob Ashley. He was a Major General. He is now Lieutenant General Bob Ashley. He was a great man, and he would sit down with a lot of the different commanders at the time, and he would give us counseling sessions where he would go over a lot of different leadership techniques that he had learned that we applied throughout my time in the military, but also that I applied afterwards, because these are just transcendent into any industry. So first and foremost, when it comes to being a leader, and all these tactics are going to be applied for you can apply it in almost any situation, but I use this for business or in your career. So when it comes to being a leader, you have to know your people. You know, the first speaker talked about if you're a shepherd, that you got to smell like the sheep. Part of that is that you got to understand what drives and motivates them. So when you understand what drives and motivates them, Tony Robbins talks that there are 6 basic human needs, okay? And out of those 6, 2 are fundamental when it comes to business. In order to get people to excel, I'm talking to motivate them and inspire them to do things way outside their comfort zone, to perform way past what they feel their own capabilities are. And those 2 basic human needs are recognition and contribution. Now, everybody has their primary and probably a secondary basic human needs. When it comes to work, everyone has one that drives them more. Recognition is that one that when people get the spotlight, when they get on stage, when they are able to be highlighted for their success, that drives them. They'll literally run through a brick wall. But then there's also other people where if they know that they're going to be contributing to a bigger vision than just them, if they're going to be helping and serving others, if they're going to, by their actions, will help an overall massive goal for the organization, they'll do the same. So it's your job as a leader to spend time with your people to understand what basic human need is driving them and what's going to help them to reach past the point of greatness for them. What's going to help them to reach outside of their comfort zone and do more than they ever thought possible, okay? And it's going to be one of those 2. Next is competition. You as a leader, all leaders are competitive. Point blank. If you're like, I'm not a competitive person, then you're not a leader, because all leaders want to do great. All leaders want to be better and make other people better than what they currently are. And the only way that you can do that is by being competitive. So when you're a leader in an organization, it doesn't matter if you have a small organization or a large organization, fostering healthy competition is a great way, and creative competition is a great way to drive performance and to increase potential. So being competitive, I'm a big firm believer. And when I'm developing other leaders within my organization, I help them to be even more competitive. And I use competition as a factor in order to develop their skills even further. Next is a concept that goes hand in hand. It's kind of like a work hard, play hard. It's also called drive and delight. Okay. Another way I've heard of this is to offer something great, or you have to ask something great of people, and you have to offer something great in return. These go hand in hand, because if you the drive is like the discipline of the organization. It's the work. It's the constantly going after a specific goal or the vision of the company. Whereas the delight is the reward that you're giving, whether it's the recognition, the contribution, whether it's monetary, it doesn't matter. But it's I like to think of it as a work hard, play hard. Okay. The reason why these go together is because if you have too much drive and not enough delight, then you're going to have an organization that has low morale. They're going to be overworked, and they're not going to be happy at their job. You're going to end up losing people. If you have an organization that has low drive, high delight, you're going to have a group of individuals that always have their hand out, that are entitled, that think that they're owed something without having to do the work to get it. So having a good balance between drive and delight, inspiring people to ask something great of them, and in return, you'll offer something great. This is a key factor when it comes to being a leader within an organization. Next, when you're giving your message to people, when you are telling them something, you have to be able to be very specific in the words that you use, and ensuring that they understand your message, and you're going to have to repeat it a lot. Being specific and being repetitive, okay? Part of being a leader is to understand that when you're giving that message, that whoever you're giving it to, they may hear it a specific way. So being a different way than what you anticipated or intended. So being very specific in your message and giving it multiple times so that you know that they understand is key. Now, here's the factor of that you got to think about when it comes to being repetitive is you have to continue to give this message over and over and over again with the same enthusiasm as you did the first time. Because you cannot come down and feel as if, well, man, I've already told you this before. Because what you're going to do is you're going to lower the morale of the people that you're speaking to. So having that same enthusiasm, the same upbeat energy, the positivity when you say the same exact message over and over again, it gets old and it gets mundane and monotonous. But that's what you signed up for when you're a leader, is being that monotonous, that constant drumbeat. Especially with, let's say, a good example of this is your company values. How often do you have to talk about your company values? You should be talking about them all the time with the same exact enthusiasm that you said it the first time, because that is how you do embedding functions of getting your company values or your company culture to where everybody understands it, that it is just as important to you and you live by it, and it should be just as important to them, right? So the last point is, and then I guess some other key points, but the last point of this list is you have to be able to constructively criticize your people. Okay. And this is a tool that I learned when I was a young cadet, and I had to constructively criticize another cadet that was younger than me in terms of seniority. He was a junior and I was a senior, but he was older than me in age and he had more experience. And I was, as a cadet, I came right out of high school. I went straight into JRTC or ROTC from high school into college. This guy was a prior service. He was an E7. He was a sergeant first class. He had deployed to Iraq multiple times. And then he went into college after to do what's called a green to gold program, where he's transitioning from enlisted to officer. And I had to counsel him because he was being sarcastic and during a brief that I was giving. And so I'm literally almost 10 years younger than this guy. And I have to counsel him and tell him that what he was doing was inappropriate. And it was very difficult for me. So I went over to my cadre member and said, hey, what do I do? And they're like, you tell me, you're the one in charge. You need to handle this. So that's what I did. And I came up with whatever my little brain at that point could come up with. And so what I did was like, you know what? I'm going to try to soften the blow. So I started off by talking about all the good things he had done so far, because he had been with us for a couple of years. I knew him very well. He was just stepping out of turn at this one moment in time. So I said, hey, man, you've done all these great things. I was highlighting all these great things he did. Okay. However, this action right here is not in line with what you've previously done. And then I ended it off with, hey, or if you want to be great, if you want to make sure that you crush it this year and coming into your senior year to where you become the next level of leader that we are right now, you're going to have to step up your game, and you can't be doing these things, right? And what I eventually called that, I don't know if I can curse on here, it was the shit sandwich. And so it's basically a technique where I'm going to start off with something great. What performance, what have you currently done that's been really great? What have your activities been? Then I'm going to go into what's the corrective action. What did you do that is not in line with our values, with the company values? And then I'm going to go with what's the potential for the future? What do I see? What if I look at you and I see what you've been doing so far, and I know what you're capable of, and I see the potential for you, this is where you can be. But if you keep doing these actions, you're not going to get there. And when you do it, when you land that message like that, it comes so much better to the people. So where they actually hear the message, the constructive criticism, and they want to move forward and they want to correct it. So again, recognition and contribution, making sure that you understand what it is that your people are motivated by, those 6 basic human needs, the 2 of the 6, being competitive, having drive and delight, the work hard, play hard, being specific and repetitive in your message, and then the shit sandwich. And then last but not least, is when it comes to being a leader, okay? Leaders are, the point of being a leader is that you want to make sure that you're lifting people up to the next level, okay? You want to create leaders that also create leaders. And as a leader, you're simply helping people accomplish things and step outside of their comfort zone to do things that they would not normally do without your help or without your presence. If people do that without you there or without your help, then you're not needed. Okay. And if you're given your help, and if they have your presence and they still can't do it, then you're not effective. So you have to stop and take a look at yourself and wonder, like, if my team isn't doing these things, I'm here and I'm trying to tell them what to do, then you're not being effective. You're not effective as a leader. Go back to the basics, these things that I just taught you about. Go over those, see where you're coming up short. Sometimes it's a simple tweak. All right. If people are doing it without you there, then you're not needed. Then you're not their leader. Okay. So understand these very simple, basic techniques and tactics, and I promise you'll be very successful in your leadership game. I don't know what the time was.
You're good, Greg, man. As a great message, I appreciate you sharing that. Also appreciate you helping me get towards getting kicked off of YouTube as well for the cussing. I'm just kidding there.
At least it's by the end, because on YouTube, if it's at the beginning, it's a major no-go. If it's in the video for a while, then it's like, meh.
Yeah. Hopefully, I'm sure we're good. I don't know. You never know with YouTube and all these awesome platforms that do give us great opportunities, but can be such a struggle sometimes with little things like this that happen. But no, appreciate the message you shared there with us.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure, brother. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. All right, we're going to go on to our last speaker for the night. I hope you are ready for Josh Kosnick. He is not afraid to ask tough questions. Josh is a thoughtful and skilled coach and consultant who thoroughly enjoys guiding people to achieve their full potential. With 20 plus years of managerial experience, including 17 years experience in the financial services industry, he provides insightful perspective, direct feedback, and systematic accountability to help his clients follow through. Josh, go ahead and take it away, man.
Hey, thank you, Philip. And I got to attest that that's the fewest swear words I have heard Greg Birch use in a speech. So he did well tonight. I really appreciate the opportunity. And leadership is what I speak on a daily basis. It's what I coach. It's what I do. So I have a little bit of curse of knowledge and couldn't decide what to speak on tonight decisively. So I decided to tell you guys a little bit of a story and in parallel to some of my journey throughout the last 17, 20 years, whatever you want to say. Oftentimes, leadership is seen as a crown to wear. Now, I often say that you got to carry the crown and be willing to carry the crown before you wear the crown. But oftentimes, even then, being willing to carry it and then wear it isn't necessarily seeing what the true responsibility of leadership is. Leadership is a responsibility and a privilege, not a crown to wear. So, without further ado, I want to talk a little bit through this story. Have you ever climbed a mountain, get to the summit, only to realize you climbed the wrong mountain? Imagine getting to the top of Everest, Mount Everest, only to find out you summited Mount Kilimanjaro. Now, that's kind of crazy because they're on two different continents. I get that. But imagine training 17 years, investing money, time, blood, sweat, tears, only to realize that wasn't your summit. Now, that exact scenario probably hasn't happened to any of you, but it's what happened to me. Only Mount Everest, my Everest, was my business. And I didn't climb down, I was kicked down. So on June 16th, 2021, I get a call at 7:30 in the morning from a regional vice president at the Fortune 100 company that I represented, and I had a large financial firm, as Philip alluded to. Says, meet me at the Marriott. And I said, well, that's weird. You know, I'm thinking. I said, yeah, I'll be right there. I was expecting them later that day. But to get that call and meet him at the Marriott versus my office, which was a 10th of a mile down the road, was odd. And so the moment I walk in the Marriott and I shake his hand, I sit down and he says, Josh, there's no easy way to say this. We're moving in a different direction. You're no longer managing partner. And so within 2 minutes of being there, I go from the mountaintop to the basement. Everything that I had worked for over the last 17 years, the training, the people that I had recruited and developed, the business, the personal practice that I sold, bought this business, now is ripped out from underneath me. And I got to go home, tell my wife what just happened, tell my father, my hero, what just happened, because I succeeded him. And I'm also worried about the 250 people that were under my care, now left befuddled, scared, and every other emotion in between, as if they are sitting here going, if they could do this to our leader and rip the business away from him, what's going to happen to us? So I have every emotion under the sun happening right now, but I didn't even make it home right away. I made it to a parking lot where I stopped because I couldn't see and was bawling. I'd lost my identity, my job, my benefits, my income, my business. Now, there was a buyout, and we had to negotiate that over 6 months. But everything outside of my family was gone, that I knew it. So I go home, tell my wife, and as I'm knocked off that mountaintop to curled up in the fetal position down here in my basement that I sit in today, or sit in right now, a lot goes through your mind. All that work, the leadership mantle that you're put on, can be taken away from you in an instant. It may not be a corporate overlord. It may be bad business decisions. It might be, as James spoke about earlier, not running your financials strong. It may be an employee sues you unjustly, like what happened to me and the reason I was terminated. So I had an employee stab me in the back, and I had to fight that lawsuit for 2 years to clear my name. It was in a civil suit. And to say that I felt betrayed would have been an understatement. So it doesn't matter where you're at in the leadership journey. There's things that will attack you and things that will affect you in a negative route. So as a couple of our speakers spoke on earlier, is leading yourself first, making sure that you are whole, spiritually, mentally, physically, in tip-top position, peak condition and all. Not only to handle what life's going to throw at you, but also to lead by example for your people. Nowadays, you don't have the luxury of being a great boss on the job and being a terrible person outside the job. They are watching every single thing you do. Everything. So if you're in great shape and got great arms like our friend Greg, the people that work for you are going to likely be in shape and want that as well. Those that choose to live their life a little bit overweight, and your employees will think that's okay too. If you live a life that's cheating on your spouse, your employees will think that's okay too. They watch everything, and character matters. Employees are hitching their wagon to that leader. So you want to build a great culture, you got to be a worthy person to actually bring in worthy people and attract the people that you really want as a part of your organization, that fit your values, that fit your mission. And when you're strong in your vision and values and mission, it will repel the wrong people. So you may think, why would it be worth it? Why climb the summit? And a lot of people do that. They fear success. A lot of people think they fear failure. I would argue that more people fear success, have a fear of success more than fear of failure. Because what if they fail? Well, I stomached one of the biggest quote unquote failures ever. But here's the thing. So if any of you know anything about Mount Everest, there's 4 camps. Camp 1 is base camp. So I drew this analogy out. Camp 1, I learned how to be a great producer at base camp. I was a great financial advisor. Camp 2, I learned how to run a great business and build a great business. Camp 3, I learned how to recruit and develop great talent. Camp 4, before I summited, I learned how to build a great culture and become a great leader. So all of those lessons on the way up, even though I got kicked down, now serve me today, because this is exactly what I'm helping other business leaders and entrepreneurs do. In fact, when I took over and bought the firm, I was told to be good at 4 things. Recruit the best talent, develop that talent endlessly, run very strong financials. Don't outspend your means, especially on the personal side of things. Continue to reinvest back into the business. And number 4, build a very strong culture. Now, working with entrepreneurs and business owners across the spectrum, that wasn't just great advice for the financial industry. That's tremendous advice for every business owner. Recruit the best talent. Develop that talent endlessly. Run very strong financials. Have very strong financials. And lastly, build a very strong culture that you're proud of. And as you do that, you'll run a business that attracts more and more talent and repels the people that aren't for you or for your business. So fear of success should go away with learning that all the way up, you're going to learn skills. You're going to learn traits. You're going to learn how to get to that next step, even if you fall down. One of the things I've always taught my kids, and I had to be an example for, when they're yay big, just learning to walk. What do we do when we fall down? We get back up. And so being a great leader, being a great example, being a great father or mother, be the example. Make sure you stand back up. Make sure you keep putting one foot in front of the other. Make sure you're the example that others want to follow. Every once in a while, take a look in the mirror and say, would I follow me? With how I've performed over the last 30, 60, 90 days, would I follow me? If I had to grade myself as an employee, what grade would I give myself? John Maxwell talks about the law of the lid. I love it. The law of the lid states this: the organization can only grow as far as the leader's leadership value. So if your leadership value is here, that means your people, your next in line leaders, can only get to here. So your job as the leader is to always be a notch above. So we're either green or growing or ripe and rotting. That's one of the nursery rhymes my father told me, not just growing up, but also in business. Green or growing or ripe and rotting. There is no staying the same. And that's been said many ways before. But the point is that there is no staying the same. If you're not growing, you're dying on the vine. So your job as a leader is to always continue to grow so that your team members can grow, so that your business can grow and lead the life that you want to lead. There's been many great points brought up today about leading others, attracting others. Greg brought up some great points on culture, and some others brought up on delegation. I want to focus on leading yourself first. If we lead us well, we can then parlay that into leading others well. Be the example. Continue to lead into your values, into your mission and your vision, and build the strongest business possible so that you can lead the life that you want to lead outside your business as well, because that's extremely important. And with that, Philip, I'll turn it back to you.
All right. Awesome. Josh, man, it's such a great message. Yeah. One, we definitely need to be leading ourselves. We are such an example to our family, especially as the men of the household and everything. I think it's something that we're really missing in families now as men not truly leading their household. So really appreciate that message. All right. For those of you that stuck around, that watch this later, make sure to go follow these people that shared their message, because they are amazing leaders in their industry, the things that they're doing. And I brought them on to be able to share some great value with you. If you got value out of that, make sure that you like the video, leave a comment letting us know what you liked most. If you want to be a speaker, go over to speakingsessions.com/virtual-summits, where you can apply to be one of the next speakers on these virtual summits. But with that, y'all go out there and have a great